was a little girl, very young, up until primary school. So when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, my family would come up to Cape Cod in our country, which is a part of Massachusetts that sticks out into the water. There's lots of beaches, water, the ocean. My grandparents, my mother's side grandparents, lived here on Cape Cod, sort of where I live now. And I had been born and raised in Maryland, but when I retired, I finally did retire up here to Cape Cod because of those childhood memories with my grandfather. So my granddad had a rowboat, and he would take me out when I was a little girl. My grandma would make us sandwiches, like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and my granddad would row the boat out into the bay, not the ocean, but a bay about a mile or two long, like the one I live on now. And he would teach me how to row. And for anybody who's rowed when they're young, you get into a rowboat, you have an oar in each hand. And when you're really little, first of all, the oars are heavy. Second of all, one oar always hits the water before the other, and then your boat goes the wrong way, and you just wonder, am I ever going to get this little rowboat to go in a straight line? Because there's so many things that I'm just, I can't do this. And so my granddad would show me how to balance the oars and how to get my timing down and be patient. And he was very calm, cool, and collected. So he was a wise man. My granddad was a really wise man, which is interesting to say because he didn't have global travel experience or anything, but he was older. And I really think there's something to do with wisdom that you just don't have as a young person. There is wisdom. It takes time, over a lifetime. So my granddad was a wise man in his own way. And wisdom isn't something you can just put in a jar and sell. My granddad had his own form of wisdom, and that was knowing how to teach a young girl, how to pass it on to a young girl to help her have an experience on the water where I could eventually dominate those oars and I could row. And then once we rowed out into the middle of the bay, we could eat our sandwich. I could dive down and swim and find clams and have a great time. And it was all because I learned how to row out into the water and to do something hard and get there and then have the experience, the fun of being there. But yeah, my granddad taught me that. He taught me the perseverance, that there's a reward once you learn something. He taught me to love the water because otherwise I wouldn't have had a connection with the water and wouldn't have thought about the Naval Academy, the Coast Guard Academy. And that little experience as a girl that my grandfather gave me set the course for my entire life. So what I would say is, for anybody out there who's watching right now, there's somebody in your life who's younger than you, who's more inexperienced than you, who's less capable than you, that you can guide and mentor and pass on your wisdom. You might not have a whole lot of wisdom, but you have got more than they do in different ways. So I would challenge people to find a way to pass on something to somebody else who needs it, either at work or at home, a young little girl like me or an older person that needs some encouragement. So there's all kinds of ways you can pass your wisdom along, and you never know what kind of an impact it's going to make. And my granddad taking me out on the ocean, on the water when I was young, set the course for my entire rest of my life. And he would never know that he had made that impact on me because he ended up dying before I graduated from the Coast Guard Academy. So he never knew the impact he made. And so that's another thing about this delayed gratification. A lot of the things you do today, you're not going to ever see the benefits from, but you have to look inward and do what's right, do the right thing, and understand that a lot of what you're doing is planting seeds for the future. And that's what it's all about, is giving back the wisdom. And it doesn't mean you have to reap benefits from it. You need to learn to be selfless, and that's where that self-reflection comes in, like time in the pool, the time I've spent on sailboats, reflecting back on who I am. And then at this older age of life, that's why I wrote the book, is to give back the leadership lessons and maybe some of the wisdom that I garnered during this 40 years serving in uniform.
the big aha moment for me was, and I write about it in my book, my new book, which is called Any Dumbass Can Do It. I write about it in the book in that, in 1997, I was given the opportunity to lead the company, and our goal was to take the brand to the world. And I think from a marketing standpoint, we knew how to do that. What I didn't know how to do was to build a culture in the organization where people could act independently any hour of the day and feel good about it. So I was searching for that answer. And actually, it was 2 years into my role as CEO. I was actually on a Qantas 747 flying from Los Angeles to Sydney. And as you do when you're flying long distances, you take stuff to read. And I was reading, and I read a quote from the Dalai Lama. And the quote was, "Our purpose in life is to make people happy. If we can't make them happy, at least don't hurt them." And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could create an organization where the people's happiness was really important? And then I read another quote from Aristotle, who was born in 384 BC, and he said, "Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work." And I thought, well, those two things really join together. If people are happy and they're enjoying what they're doing, then they're going to do great work. But I still didn't know how to do it. Anyhow, when I got back to San Diego, I was reading something in a local newspaper about a master's degree in leadership at the University of San Diego. And I went to an information session where I heard my mentor, my dear friend, Dr. Ken Blanchard, the guru of servant leadership, talk about this master's degree, which was about getting people in the heart, not just in the head. So here I was, already CEO of a US public company. I went back to school and I did a master's degree in leadership, which was really very focused on, and Ken was one of my professors, which was really very focused on how do you build an organization that's really focused on servant leadership. So it was there that I found the tools. And as you've talked about wisdom a little bit, we were talking before we went live, I think there's a journey to wisdom. You go and I think that starts with forever learning. So what you do when you learn is you gain knowledge. And when you put knowledge to work, you create wisdom. So my path is to be always a forever learner, to be able to gain knowledge. And once you have knowledge and you put it to work, that's when wisdom arrives. So that was my journey.
It's never been my intention to create a trend.
Oh.
That was never the intention. That's maybe the luck part. And I don't know if it's even a skill, because, I've been paying attention to the success rhetoric, right? And I always heard you have to have a vision for what you want to be, for what you want to do. I mean, even Oprah says that. But I got to tell you, I could never have envisioned what I've been able to do. Like, I didn't even have a context for it. So how could I have envisioned it? So I think that advice, it's not that it's wrong, it's just that it's not the only way. I think if you can envision something, great, go for it. But I never could. So my only option was really to just keep moving toward the heat. Like, if I would see something and I would be like, oh, wow, that is interesting. Let's go check that out. Let's go check that out. And then, and I would get there and I would see everything and I'd be like, oh, what's the next? Oh, okay, look at that. Okay, that's interesting. Let's move toward that. So I think it's more just the guts to just keep moving toward what's interesting. You know, and then if it turns out, you get there and it's like, it's not that interesting. Go look for something else, you know? And it was also a remedy to the fact that once I really know what I'm doing, I get bored. So I have to keep doing stuff where I'm not really quite sure what I'm doing.
Wow.
You know, and get around people who do know what they're doing so I can learn from them.
Wow.
So I know I risk sounding like I'm actually just a dilettante. So what makes me not that? I think it's another trait where I crave mastery. Like whatever I'm going to do that I enjoy, I'm going to get really good at it. I'm just going to get as good as I possibly can. You know?
Yes.
If it's not that interesting, you know, I'm okay being okay. But, you know, there's a thing in the U.S. Constitution that talks about the pursuit of happiness. I don't expect you to be familiar with it. You know, why would you? Well, you spent some time in the U.S., so you probably heard it, right?
Yes.
And it struck me when I was studying neuroscience that not everyone, but many people are really, all they want is the opportunity to be in pursuit of whatever it is. And I feel like we've over-indexed, Americans have over-indexed on the word happiness. And the really important word in there is pursuit.
I think for all of us, one of the most important things to do is to identify what life is about. What is our meaning? What is our purpose? And I've written a short piece on this, and I'll send you the link on LinkedIn when I post it. But
Please.
I talk about, for all of us, it is about finding purpose and meaning. For each of us, that will be different. But ultimately, every philosophy, every creed, every religion has at its core a true value for human relationships. Life is about loving and being loved. And I think that that's a very important part of our reasons for living. And I think another part is to do whatever we do with purpose, to identify our purpose, how we can impact positively on others, because I don't believe it's having things that makes people truly happy. I think it's doing things. So if we are committed to live the best life that we can live and to saying, how do I make the best of this? Well, then I think that will start to happen.